I wanted a place for people to receive authentic guidance and practical ways to awaken. Thought-provoking, paradigm-shifting, and empowering. This is about expanding our human consciousness to create a wave of new possibilities. I'm Dr. Theresa Bullard, and this is Quantum Minds TV. Welcome back to Quantum Minds TV, where we take a deep dive into various perspectives on what it's going to take to create a shift in human consciousness. On this episode, we're continuing the conversation with Gudni Gudnason, founder of the Modern Mystery School and co-founder of Aurora Entertainment, among many other extraordinary accomplishments. So one of the things that I've loved in my studies about Kabbalah and many of the conversations that you and I have had that I'd really love to dive into is how Kabbalah really aligns with physics. And I found as a physicist that it even has revealed deeper insights into physics. So, I was seeing how we could take the laws of physics and the cosmology, from astrophysics and lay it out on the tree of life. And in doing that, it revealed, these deeper connections that maybe before I would have missed. So in what ways do you see that Kabbalah really complements with science and works with the science, especially some of the physics and the cosmology in a way that can inform us moving forward into the future?
Well, yeah, Kabbalah is physics. Kabbalah is more precisely perhaps quantum physics, but the whole mystery school concept was about study of matter and mind and matter. The study of mind and matter, and physics is about study of matter. Physics emerged out of the mystery school, out of the original physicists that were all members of the mystery school. Or many of them were members of the mystery school. Many of the concepts have come from us. So we are really kind of going back to the way it used to be. Kabbalah is pure quantum mechanics, and looking at the tree and the its functions. It's just, we might as well be at the Hadron Collider. This is, and you and I have had many discussions about this, and it's one day we'll write our papers and present it to the world.
Mm. Well, in some of the episodes of Mystery Teachings, I even showed how you could take the standard model of quantum physics and all the different particles from the different families, the leptons and the bosons, that you could take these different families and actually show how they align on not the two-dimensional tree, but the three-dimensional tree. And, there's this thing within physics you see a lot, which is the power of three. There's always three flavors of certain types of particles. And, they come in these different families. And on the tree of life, you have on the side pillars, you have the three. And we also talk about, so from the physics, from the quantum level of it, and you've also talked about like the idea of the rays of creation and how we could even maybe compare that to some of the string theory ideas coming out today, and that the inner core essence of that the string itself is like the tree of life. Sometimes we'll look at it as seen from above. That three-dimensional tree is seen from above, and then you have that core energy going through it. And we talk about the DNA, that our DNA is structured around the tree of life. So it very much feels like, from a sacred geometry perspective, from a perspective of the building blocks that the universe is created upon, that this tree really is the core blueprint. And then it's a matter of us, from that scientific mindset of today, learning how our science aligns with this core blueprint, and or how this core blueprint of Kabbalah can help inform our scientific understanding because scientists today are still trying to figure out how do we unite gravity with quantum physics, for example. How do these two things merge? And it seems like there's some really important keys within physics or within Kabbalah that helps to bring deeper insight into that grand unified theory that people are seeking today.
Yeah, well, of all of these things, what been closest to my heart in the last 20 years is string theory. And string theory is really, of course, in physics, string theories or whatever other, there are so many versions of what they think the universe is, and they argue in between those two, in between those different viewpoints, and yet probably most of them are correct anyway. It's kind of silly that they do that. And looking at string theory, though, that this fits very well with how we view the world, and the rays of Ensof, the 144,000 rays of Ensof that come down, each ray containing 5 sections to it, and then they are flowing through density levels, and how that density creates gravity. We have all this within Kabbalah. So we will be seeing the emergence of a new way of understanding. I hopefully don't offend anybody by saying this, but modern physics don't really help the common man, don't really help the man on the street. Our physics does. The Kabbalah comes from the universe, goes through the understanding of all of these phenomena, explains the universe around us, and helps us in the daily life. It will help and benefit a single mom with 3 kids and 5 jobs, and etc., etc. So I really am excited about the future and to working on enhancing the world this way.
What you just said there about how Kabbalah really does help people in their daily life. I mean, that probably rests at the core, not just Kabbalah, but within the mystery school tradition and path of initiation and the tools and methods of empowerment that we hand down and teach. When I learned how to do some of these modalities, and then I was doing them on people, and I saw the impact that it made in their life, and it really meant something. And at the same time, I was also, in my doing research at a national laboratory and, pursuing my PhD in physics. And so I had this juxtaposition in my life of just basic science, in a very traditional kind of materialist way on one hand, and advancing science for the sake of science. And then on the other hand, I had this work of directly impacting people's lives with the tools that come from the lineage, and the difference that made, and the level, as I was kind of living these 2 parallel lives at once, with a foot in the science world and a foot in the metaphysical world, and seeing the impact that they both had in the lives of others, but also in my own life, and what fulfilled me, what brought more joy, what brought more sense of purpose and meaning. It was the work with the lineage and the impact that it could have in the lives of others that really brought me that joy, and that sense of this is what matters. This is what, if I were to invest my life into, devoting it to something that really made a difference, I want to have that direct impact on people's lives versus just adding one piece of the pie to, the advancement of science for the sake of science. And I found early on that that just only science by itself, or knowledge and logic, and everything is rational and reasonable and materialist, and there's a physical explanation for everything. That kind of scientism approach that has really set in our world Yeah, we have definitely advanced in our technology. We've definitely advanced in our understanding of the physical world and how things work. But at what expense? And then the more that science has divorced itself from the spiritual, from the ethical, from the moral, from the wisdom, the more it's divorced itself, it's like those tools and that advancement of knowledge has been more and more able to be used for not good things,
Right.
towards ill in the world versus towards the good of the whole. And but its roots are in alchemy. Its roots are in metaphysics, and where the two were one. And so this is one of those places where I really felt like we need to reunite the science with the metaphysics. We need to bring that wisdom and that deeper sense of the service and the good of the whole back in, so that, and the two can complement each other versus being, so separate. And I feel like this is a really important piece of us being able to move towards that Shambhala. And that, creating a more enlightened way of life on earth, because it is going to be technological and scientific, but it's also going to be spiritual and rich. And this is why I love the Mystery School Path so much, because I found that it was it honored both, kind of sides, the science and the art, the magic and the reason, the logic. And, maybe you can share a little bit more on that the importance of that, the importance of bringing the science and the metaphysics together again.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, that science today has come from the Mystery School Path in the beginning, and I love it when I'm reading scientific journals and stuff, and they come up with breaking news. Oh, we just discovered this, and I'm like, yeah, we discovered that a few thousand years ago. So, yeah, definitely there needs to be a merger between science and what we call spirituality or metaphysics. It has to be.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of, I think it was Lord Byron, maybe, who said at one point that science had come down to a precision art, and there was nothing new to discover. Everything was now just about carrying out, to further decimal points, their measurements. And then right at that time was when quantum physics started to be discovered, and it completely upended everything that science thought it knew. And they had to start really, reinventing and completely shifting into a new paradigm and asking questions and especially questioning their assumptions, and what they thought was unquestionable, now it became questioned. And every time science gets to that point where they think there's nothing more to discover, it's like, it's the moment before, this breakthrough, and the universe then sends a completely different, it throws a curveball, and gets that process of questioning again. So I look at the history of science and see that, okay, it started from alchemy, it started from metaphysics and the Mystery School initiates, and people like Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton and many of the founders, Francis Bacon, like many of them were initiates. And they said, don't try to divorce, like Newton said something like, don't try to take God out of the equation. Don't make this a mechanical universe. And yet that is exactly what certain other scientists did. And I look at that and it's like, well, okay, I think at the time it was appropriate because there was conflict with the church, and being able to study, and really come to understand how the universe worked, because it might have led to discoveries that were contrary to church dogma, for example. And so they needed to divorce. So I see that there's been an alchemy even within science, that first, it had to go through this stage of separation and purification. And we've been through that, and science has really, mastered its own art from within its place of logic. And meanwhile, the spiritual, has gone into a different direction and really, mastered certain aspects of mind and magic. But we're at this place now where in that separation, they've become too dogmatic. Like even science has become its own dogma, its own, religion, and they don't whether it's scientism or materialism, or, it's like it's dogmatic. And it's in those places where they refuse to look that the biggest new discoveries can come from.
Right.
And it's great that we're coming into an era where scientists are starting to say, no, we need to investigate consciousness again. We need to bring consciousness into the equations, or at least into the overall theory. Otherwise, you don't have a theory of everything without that integration of mind back into it. And so I see that we're in this alchemy, and we're coming back to this time of reintegration, the fusion between the art and science, the physics and metaphysics. And this is all leading towards a new paradigm, a shift into a new paradigm. And so this kind of brings us to the last topic that I want us to discuss, which is, what is it really going to take to create that shift in consciousness beyond just, merging science and spirituality, for example? There's something more, right? We want to create a peaceful world, a balanced world. And as you said before with Buckminster Fuller's quote, you can't change it from fighting the existing reality. We have to build something new, a new model that makes the old model obsolete. So what do you see are some of those new models that are really going to be needed to create a Shambhala, a more peaceful and balanced world, or shift consciousness into a new paradigm?
Well, modules. First, let's start with the foundation of it. We will never see a new peaceful world without each individual having peace within. We got to start with each individual. So the peace within each person, that will spread to the peace on earth. So that's number one, the job we have. Now, we also have to create a system where money is eliminated. Money is good for the system we have. But for the new system, money is going to pollute it and corrupt it. So we need to eliminate that option. And there are some very innovative ideas when it comes to that kind of thing right now going on the planet. So it is exciting to see. And I'm not talking about Bitcoin, because I don't understand Bitcoin, but there are systems where there is no need for anything like that. So that will emerge, but it has to emerge from the people. And I always come back to this. There's this great interview with an old lady in Okinawa, and she was asked. She was like 109 years old, and interviewer went there to ask her, okay, well, how did you get so old? And they were expecting her to say, Okinawa seaweed or some kind of, magical formula, right? And she just said, no, I'm this old because I have strived my whole life to be a good person. And that's really what the bottom line. We need to develop a system that creates good people, where you can be a good person. You don't need to do crime or steal or lie. You can just be yourself and be safe. And we have all the tools to do that. We just don't want to. We like the system of control. There's this huge system of control everywhere. Governments control and corporations control and all of this. And this has to stop. So, and we're moving towards that. It's happening. We all obviously have to change the way we eat. The food we have is not serving the mission, not serving us, not serving humans. So we need to change the way we feed ourselves without the killing of animals and destroying nature, etc. So yeah. So new agriculture is needed to create that kind of food. the social system needs to be different. Of course, if we eliminate money, the social system will change drastically right away. And we will have to take, for good people, we take care of each other. For good neighbors, we take care of each other. And so the changes we need to make are happening. But the danger is this: if we create a system now, in 5 years it's going to be obsolete. So we need to kind of slowly evolve into this new system, because the system needs to be created by the people, not by one organization, etc., because then it's controlled by that organization. So the system is created by the people, and people on earth are good people. Most of them are good people, and they are starting to realize this and starting to create new.
So this brings us, I think, back to being a good person and what that really means. You said 98, 99% of people are good people. Meaning they're good people in their hearts. Maybe they're not always expressing in the best way because there's ignorance or misdirection, misconception happening. But in their intention, they're meaning to do the best that they can with the circumstances that they have. But there are some people who are not good people. They don't have good intentions, or they're just too distorted in the mind. And so if we want to move to a world where people are just being good people, and that's the solution, like how do we then work with the people who really need correction within the mind, or, healing? How does that have to come into the fabric of a new society to be able to create a Shambhala type world, a world of peace?
But right now on the planet, there are many Anakin Skywalker. Now, Anakin Skywalker thought he was doing the right thing. He was convinced. The
Jedis.
The Jedi are wrong. The Emperor is wrong. I'm right. And this master is right. I'm going to follow him. So he was convinced. And there are many like that today, but don't realize that they're, creating bad things for humanity. So all we can do is wait for them to learn their lessons, see the fruits of their work. And fortunately, they're speeding it up now. There's more Anakins walking around the planet than before, and which is good, because then we get this over with faster.
How do you think that works? How does that work? That we have to wait until they learn their lessons. I mean, because the story of Anakin Skywalker is he becomes Darth Vader, and then he's the sort of enemy of the Jedi for eons. I mean, so how do we? Yes, it's speeding up. It seems like everything is happening faster, but it also seems like the world is evolving into kind of a bit of chaos. So where is the hope in all of that?
So what Anakin Skywalker, who turned into Darth Vader, learned in 50 years, and at the end, regretted it and loved his son and all that. All of that, the whole history is now happening in just a few years. Men with money are saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm giving my money away," and those starting wars are realizing, "No, this is not serving." So the lessons are being, concised into shorter periods of time, and so we hopefully will see peace come to Earth faster than we estimated. But these are the end of days according to the prophecies, where we see Armageddon, which is the end of the world as we know it. So as we know it, which is the past, and new world is coming. And yeah, it's exciting. and we enter into the new world without the Anakin Skywalkers. They were, they will, they will be instead pioneers of, manifesting new things. So
Well, a lot of that comes down to ego, ultimately. Thinking one is
Yeah.
right and not having the humility to recognize that there is a wisdom beyond, that I don't know what I don't know. And that there is a greater wisdom in my, my Jedi masters, for example, or, the people who have come before. And we have to kind of humble that ego that, wants to cling to being right. And canceling, all the cancel culture stuff that we see today, canceling anyone who, maybe offends or has a different perspective, or, there's we need to open up to the more ancient traditions of having an open mind and being willing to debate and have conversations, even with people who have very different perspectives and viewpoints, and not necessarily about it's right and wrong, but shifting to, okay, maybe it's all true or none of it's true, and it's just different perspectives of looking at things, and learning to have more compassion to see the world from the eyes of another. And
yeah,
and so what you're saying is that we're coming into a period of time that's very condensed. All the lessons, all the archetypal lessons of humanity, it's all being very concentrated into this time right now, which is creating a very chaotic kind of world. But I've always gone with this saying that my mom taught me, which is great chaos precedes great growth. That we're in this time of great chaos, but that means we're at the threshold of a major breakthrough, a time of great growth, and it is very condensed. So it's very accelerated right now. We're moving through so much, and it's almost like the karma of humanity is being, in our face, and we're having to face it and deal with it. These generations alive right now are having to deal with all this ancestral karma of the human race, so that we can maybe resolve it. I guess my question now, I also want to just clarify, you mentioned Armageddon, but so in a religious context, they think, oh, that means the rapture's coming, and, people are just some are going to be left behind, and some are going to ascend up into, a spiritual dimension. But here we're talking more about the way we knew life is ended, and we're moving into a new way of life. So can you clarify a little bit, and how long, if you were to give your own sort of foresight into this transition that we're going through, how long do you think we have before we really move through some of these big lessons and get to the other side of this big leap of humanity?
Well, the rapture is happening right now because they took away my baker yesterday. He just disappeared. Boom. No, just. I don't personally. I don't believe in this rapture thing. It's a religious dogma that's been running around for a while, and Hollywood grabbed on it and made some movies and all that stuff. But it's Armageddon is a very good thing. The end of the world as we know it. And the world as we know it is no good. It's not. It does not support individuals. It leaves a lot of people alone. We have a lot of suicides. People are just not taken care of. You have to be, tough, mean mother, whatever you call, to survive, and it's no good. So the world is changing, and that's good. It's ending as we know it, and that's good. And we are adjusting to. People are adjusting to this, and realizing, oh, there are different ways of doing things, and even China. I saw a report from China yesterday that they're reevaluating their system, the governance system in China, and they even started building eco-green whole cities, all eco-green, and so things are slowly moving in the right direction, and it may seem tough right now, but just just know it's going to end. We're all looking at a good future.
If you were to give a prediction of how long it might take us to shift and start really seeing the results of getting into this new paradigm way, where we're seeing it more solidified, stabilized, what would you guess or predict?
October 13th. No. we first of all, we are in it now. It's already started. We can see it. It's obvious. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I think we're looking at another 20 years of this hardship, and then it starts slowing down again. So again, I might be wrong, but that's kind of a feeling I get. A lot of these systems are breaking up automatically. You know, kind of like you look at the ocean and you see snow, ice, and there's this glacier slowly melting into the ocean, and there's snow flakes of snow crashing up against it. It's kind of like this process that's happening on the North Pole is happening in society. So the old system is melting away and breaking on the ice, and it's scary for a while, and then we'll stabilize again. So, you know.
So even if it's 20 years down the line, which to some people might seem like a long way away, but that'll come so quick because everything is happening so fast now. And we who are, here now, like we are the ones who are helping pave the way.
Yes.
That. And so right now, this time that we're in is so critical, and what individual people choose to do, right? As you were saying before, it's not a top down thing that is going to create this shift. It's from the individuals. It's from the bottom up. And you mentioned to create peace in the world, we have to start with peace within. So what are some very grounded, practical steps that you would suggest for people in order to right now start contributing to that collective mission of creating a new and better system so that we can successfully shift into this more peaceful and balanced way of life on Earth?
Might sound like a cliche, but it's very simple. You have to love yourself. You start loving yourself. You can love others. You cannot love others unless you love yourself. And when that love is flowing, when that compassion is part of love. You have compassion for yourself. You will have compassion for others. And a community that feels that, when they start having compassion for each other, boom, that community grows. So these are very practical things to do.
Well, thank you. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to offer to people who are watching this?
Yeah, just hang in there. There is hope. Hang in there.
Well, that brings us to the end of this conscious and deep conversation with founder Gudni Gudnason of the Modern Mystery School. Founder Gudni, thank you so much for joining me and for being my distinguished guest today. It's been an amazing conversation. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Quantum Minds TV. If you enjoyed it, please do rate, review, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and or Spotify. And if you'd like to be the first to get full access to each conscious conversation as soon as it's available, you may register at quantummindstv.com with your name and email. It's completely free to register. And then you will be able to receive a secret link and watch each episode as soon as it's available at your leisure. Until next time, I'm Dr. Theresa Bullard White, and this is Quantum Minds TV.
This conscious conversation was created, produced, and recorded by Dr. Theresa Bullard White and edited by Verse Content and Depth Perception Films. The theme music and intro videography were created by Tin Mountain and Eden Mode Productions. Quantum Minds TV is a product of the Quantum Learning Academy.